Hey guys, it's Lauren. Good morning. It's kind of early here. I've been up for a while. I am currently reading the website for the American Council of Witches 2015. I know some of you are too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, so a few weeks ago, the internet sort of blew up because this Facebook group appeared purporting to be the next, a resurrection essentially of the 1973 Council of American Witches, which, if you don't know about them specifically, you probably have been exposed to them through the 13 Principles of Wiccan Belief. Those of you who grew up with Silver Ravenwolf, like myself, had these hammered into you through a variety of sources in the late 90s and early 2000s. Anyway, I guess the whole intent behind the original council, because I can't even say that word without feeling like a dick. The whole intent behind the council was some sort of not a central authority per se, but I guess some sort of body that was representative of a larger community for the sake of, I guess, public representation, legal representation, things like that. Anyway, it was spectacularly unsuccessful because regardless of how you identify, I think, if you're pagan, a witch, a Wiccan, metaphysical, something or other, operating sort of within the new Aquarian frontier, right? The one thing we seem to have in common is that we don't like people telling us what to do. We don't like having people pop up purporting to represent us, which is why we're so adamant about authors that we hate. And when people try to set up online schools and what the hell is this pagan seminary bullshit, we get riled up, often regardless of which side of the argument we're on. So anyway, the first council was spectacularly unsuccessful and was dissolved almost immediately. Some other folks tried to put it back together in 2011, and I don't even think people remember that because that was just a blip of nothingness. So when this Facebook group appeared, I don't know when the hell it was, I'm not on Facebook, but when this Facebook group appeared a few weeks ago, people started losing their shit. And now, today is the day, as promised, that their website goes live and they reveal who the council members are. And my initial reaction was pretty mild, just because, the reality is that nobody's going to be successful setting themselves up as anything even remotely resembling a central authority when it comes to the pagan community, if that's even a thing, which I would be inclined to say it isn't. And particularly when a group purports to be representing Wicca specifically, which is necessarily anti-authoritarian, and covens are autonomous, and it doesn't work. So this is not something that I took seriously or gave much thought to. And me and a lot of my witch friends have just sort of been sitting back and chuckling while, the wild hunt blows up with conversation about this, and Facebook blows up. And I honestly thought that it was a hoax, just because if you looked at the scant bit of material that they did release, this council, first of all, they're operating from a .com platform instead of a .org. There's misspellings and grammatical errors in the things that they're putting out. I assumed that this was either a hoax or it was put together by people who were so blatantly unqualified in all the ways that one can be unqualified to represent any group of people, that they wouldn't warrant real attention anyway. And now that their website is live and you can actually read about what's going on here, and there's very little material here. You click on any of these links, and I'll put the link to the website below, but if you click on any of these links, most of it isn't up yet, right? There's no documents or resources or whatever. There's just this About Us section, and it's individual profiles, and, it's just... I don't know. I don't even have words, really, for how ridiculous this is. And who are these people? I mean, who cares? And I think this is going to be one of those things that ceases to exist very briefly. I mean, they'll probably I'm sure they've paid for the website for a year or whatever, but this is not the sort of thing that warrants serious attention or real conversation. You can just, I mean, look at the fact that what's going on in this website is clearly unedited. I mean, just the poor professional quality in terms of content. I mean, if you can't bother to get an editor, you know, like, somebody's already bought the .org domain and set up a parody site, like, whatever. So, anyway, it's not even worth making fun of, right? Like, it's that sad. But it does beg questions about central authority and representation and, right, anytime you start talking about a pagan community or a witchcraft community or a Wiccan community, and we've seen this manifest in arguments about who's a real witch and who's a real Wiccan, anytime you start setting parameters around a community, you necessarily have to include some people and exclude others. And it's always interesting to see where people build their fences. And I'm gleefully outside of this fence, whatever's going on over here on this website. But, you know, people are posing arguments about, well, maybe we need some kind of, maybe not a central authority per se, but we need some kind of institutionalization because we've got pagans in the military, we've got pagans who have assorted legal problems that need to be dealt with, you know, like, it's hard ensuring, you know, anyway, you get what I'm saying? Like, there are reasonable arguments for the institutionalization of paganism broadly. I have massive problems with this, of course. I think a lot of us do, maybe probably most of us do. But they're questions worth considering. So, I'd be curious about folks' comments and responses, not necessarily to this this most recent version of the American Council of Witches, but specifically with regard to central authority. Do we need representation? Is that something that matters? Like, how necessary is it that we look like other kinds of religions, particularly in the United States? Like, and what sorts of sacrifices do we have to make in order for that to happen? Like, what gets lost when we build those parameters? So, anyway, things to think about. Oliver is not thinking about these things because he's a cat. So, have a good day.